This was my 40-acre ranch, and for years, the only people driving these roads were family, workers, and invited guests. Then one afternoon, I noticed a vehicle I had never seen before. A dark SUV was coming down the ranch road with HOA patrol printed across its side. I had never authorized anyone from the HOA to patrol my property. I watched them drive deeper into the ranch instead of stopping at the entrance. That was when I realized this wasn't just a random mistake. The SUV turned around near one of my interior fences and headed back toward the main road. I decided I needed to find out exactly why they believed they could patrol here. A few minutes later, the woman running the HOA committee showed up with several representatives. She wasn't there to apologize. She came with a plan. She told me the HOA considered the ranch road part of the community's access system. I calmly explained that my property records showed otherwise. I had brought copies of the property map, survey, and access documents with me. Everything clearly showed where the ranch boundaries were located. The property line wasn't complicated. It was clearly marked, surveyed, and documented. The HOA simply didn't like what that boundary meant for their plans. Then I saw the drawings they had brought. They wanted regular access through my ranch road for HOA operations and community traffic. I wasn't going to argue endlessly about my property. Instead, I decided to establish a clear physical boundary at the entrance. The concrete barriers weren't there to cause trouble. They were a clear boundary marking where the ranch entrance ended and private property began. When the HOA group returned, they finally saw the new barrier across the entrance. Their entire plan suddenly had a very obvious problem. She demanded to know why I had placed the barriers there. I reminded her that the entrance was on my property and that I was protecting the boundary. Then I showed her the survey marker, sitting only a few feet from the entrance. There was no confusion anymore about where the ranch boundary stood. The patrol SUV stopped at the barrier. For the first time, they had to remain outside the ranch entrance and deal with the boundary they had been ignoring. I didn't yell, threaten anyone, or make a scene. I simply told them that future access would have to follow the documented property boundaries. The representatives started comparing their own paperwork. Their confidence slowly disappeared as they realized the ranch documents were consistent. That road had served my ranch for years. I wasn't trying to stop the world from using it. I was making sure access happened with proper permission. The woman finally stopped arguing and started reading the documents carefully. Her expression told me she understood the situation had changed. I didn't need to fight the HOA. I only needed to stand by the property boundaries and let the documents speak for themselves. After that meeting, the unexpected patrols stopped coming through my ranch. The entrance was quiet again. Within a few days, everything started feeling normal again. My ranch was finally quiet enough to sound like a ranch. Meanwhile, the HOA board had to revisit the entire access proposal. This time, they had to look at the actual property records instead of assumptions. Once everyone studied the map, the situation became much clearer. The ranch road wasn't automatically theirs just because it connected near the community. The board finally understood that access to private property required proper authorization. Their original plan had been based on an assumption that simply wasn't correct. Back at the ranch, I looked at the barriers and smiled. They represented something simple: clear boundaries. Even my dog seemed to notice how quiet everything had become. There was no confrontation anymore, just our ranch and the life we had built there. The same entrance that had caused so much drama now looked completely ordinary. Sometimes the strongest solution is simply making the boundary unmistakably clear. The HOA came expecting an open path into my ranch. Instead, they found a clearly documented property boundary that they couldn't simply ignore. That day taught me that you don't always need a fight to protect your property. You need clear boundaries and the facts to back them up. Like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from.